What's up cosplay crew and crafty creators, I'm Janeko Shounen. In our previous video, we covered the process of how I made the gauntlets for my Issei Hyoudou cosplay. Now, we are going to take a look at how I made the lower arm cover sections of this armor. Just a reminder, some of my videos vanished like socks in a dryer because of my last phone breaking, but I have tried to recover and piece them together as best I can, so please bear with me. To start off with, I planned all the patterns on paper, then used magnets to secure them to the metal and outlined them with a permanent marker. Next, I used sheet cutters to cut out each piece, and though it worked well, it did leave the edges rather jagged and sharp, something which was easily fixed with a bench stone grinder and wire brush.
Smooth as a baby's butt.
Once I had all of the pieces ready to go, I focused on making the inner sections of the arm first. Doing this entailed bending all of the separate parts to the correct shape to fit my arm comfortably. Once I had all of the separate parts ready, I marked their positions and got ready to connect them. Piecing them together here was a rather tricky task, as I had to connect them one at a time with clamps which refused to stay in place, and I can tell you now that by the end of this section, I was pulling my hair out. Once I finally had everything in place, I drilled the holes, put the rivets in, and flattened them so that they wouldn't hurt my arms. At this point, the inner sections were complete and I was able to start putting the outer sections together. Now, for the section, the bends needed to be quite sharp and defined, so the way that I did this was by positioning the armor piece on a thin piece of metal in a vise and using an angle iron to push the metal down equally on both sides, and I think it gave it quite a satisfying finish. Once I had all of the parts bent to the desired shapes, I positioned them on top of the inner sections, marked their locations, clamped down two thin bars which I would connect them to, and began drilling the holes. When doing this, I wanted it to look clean and I didn't want the rivets for each of the layers to be visible, so I started from the top link and moved inwards, removing each piece as I went. The next step here was to attach the hinge. I wanted to use one of the already existing holes in the strip, so I used nails to temporarily hold everything in place, positioned the hinge and marked its location. Then I simply drilled a hole, filed down the metal so that the hinge wouldn't protrude too much, riveted down the one side of the hinge and once again flattened it. Finally, I was able to start riveting everything together, starting from the inner section, moving outward, and of course, flattening all the rivets as I went. Now all I had to do before getting it powder coated was put masking tape where the bulb was going to sit. Once everything was back in the right color, I wanted to give my costume that drawn anime appearance. To do this, I outlined each of the main details with permanent marker, and I think that doing this really gave it a great finish. Even the inner sections look much better in comparison. At this point, I was finally able to attach the spikes that I made. These spikes were made out of metal and they were filled with polyurethane foam. I used Velcro by the opening of the arm cover so that I would be able to open and close them with ease. Now, even though I flattened these rivets, sections of them were still cutting into my arm. So to stop this, and to help the lower arm cover get a bit of grip, I used Janeko contact adhesive and put thin strips of foam along the edges. Now all I had to do was feed the LEDs through the hole that I drilled in the back of the arm cover, rolling them up along the way. And finally, I put these lights inside of the bulb cover, positioned it, riveted it in place, and voila!
Hell fucking yeah! Dress break!